Good evening, everybody, also from my side. I will tell you today a little bit about everything, but where to start? Mm, I'm learning for around 13, I'm flying for around 13 years, and when I started in 2010 with Valic Brothers, I had luck to learn a bit from glider development, testing, flying itself, to get various skills in that aspect. But basically, then when I moved to Naviter, it changed a lot, because you start from pure glider development, no thinking of how you will fly. You move then to completely different aspect, how to deal with those things. And today I would like to talk about the technical part, or basically about how to use the technology we have available nowadays in the way of actually not only in flight, also to plan with it, and then navigate and also analyze. Normally, when you start learning and you would like to progress, you have some goals, and goal is quite important. Either this is fun, cross-country records, competition wins, or some particular result in the conf which you would like to achieve. You need to have a goal. This will drive you a bit how to squeeze out your performance and how much effort you need to put to systematic on a certain level of flying. And as I said before, normally this is also what we work now at Naviter, is a complete system in the way of planning itself, then in-flight navigating, and then that you can also analyze, learn and share with your friends all your activities, so you can somehow progress and become a better pilot. But how to deal with that is always a question, and at this point I will start with flight planning. Here is worth to mention that either cross-country or competition flying is not so different. The information you need or the approach you need, it's always the same. Either you go on cross-country record attempt or on the top result of the competition, you need to start in the same way, in the way of using the all available tools and sources. Maybe on the competition, these are your local pilots where you can get most of the information of how to fly the task. You can get a lot of old IGC files which you can then, for example, replay them in CO Cloud. For the cross-country, you get most of the information from various contexts. At this point, I would say gliding OLC is a lot of time missed somehow, because they have much better performance than we do. But when you go about 200 kilometers of flight, of length of the flights, you quickly come to the point where they actually can show us something what to do. And maybe in the way of gliders, pure gliders are not so relevant, but ATOS, like Swift gliders, less performant gliders, they are somehow not hang gliders, a bit better, because normally I think with paragliders we already fly longer than with hang gliders, but from ATOS gliders, for the bigger triangles in the Alps or for one-way flight, you can already get some quite interesting moves, where they go, how they deal with it. And then you come quickly to planning, where you can actually take their flights and improve them in the way of your goal you want to have. And here I have one example of the flight. Yeah. Yeah. Atos 1, this is not Atos 1, this is, this was the one from, that's actually interesting fight between Urban and Alias and me. This one is from Aljaž. I think it was 2009. They started to attempting first Slovenian 200 triangle from Čaven. You know the takeoff most likely. It's middle way between Lijak and Nanos. And yeah, they flew most of it few times. And I was lucky at that time that they were in Annecy, promoting Krug on the World Cup. And I was a bit pragmatic when I went. At that time we didn't have CU or CU Cloud. I used XC Planner, honestly. And I said, okay, they were always too short for a few kilometers, how to deal with that now? And I simply took their flight and just optimized a bit of optimized a bit their waypoints. Okay, let's overload now. Task. And it's simple. Looking terrain configuration, I have with some weather. And that's it. You get it. Just a bit of optimization, how to fly a bit easier, which was enough with a bit less performance I had comparing to Urban and Aljaž to squeeze it out, what they were not able to do for 2 years attempting. And that's a good example of how to make a simple copy-paste to basically improve already made flight. That's the same example. It was just a screenshot for easier explanation. At this point, I would point out what really into the game in less times is weather integration. Crossover all products you can get. Definitely here the leader I would say is SkySight. It's made from Matthew Scudder, a young Australian guy. He's also a glider pilot. And he's really keen to push weather integrations in the way of only not to forecast the weather, but only to have it for the post-analysis and in-flight. And more about that later, it was just to mention a bit. This is, let's say now we have a basic idea how to make a flight. I would say copy-paste principle is the most seen in the Alps. All these triangles you see, they are just corrected copies, maybe of not only one, maybe 2 or 3 flights, but when you look at them, the most famous one this year was the one from Michael Somena, or Somi we call him, the big one from Stoderziken 300, where he crossed the main reach of the Turahe Hohe 2 times. First time from the north-south to Brunico and then away back on the east side of Groslotka. Yeah, the one thing is definitely different. When you go to cross-country, you have your own cross-country task which you share with the friends, and on competition the organizer sets you the task. But when you come to navigation, the basic guideline how to deal with the instruments, how to set them up is pretty much the same. First of all, know your instrument, so I don't have too much questions on support email. I mean, that was a joke, but still, like, normally when I get an email, I understand some things could be made in the easier way, but still people don't take time for 1 hour to see how the instrument works, and then in the next step how to configure what information they need, and then the third step, upload the data unit in Fly. Here at this point I could add now weather also, because on the Audi, for example, you can have weather in flight already now, but definitely how to keep it simple. And here I would like to show you actually which info you need for either competition or cross-country flight to accomplish it correctly. Normally everybody starts with something like this, and I would say, so where to start? Which are for most of you the two most important values on the instrument? Let me hear.
Light ratio to go.
Okay, yeah, no, good enough. Speed and altitude, these are the basic two you need. I would say the third one is vario sound, but it's enough sound itself, you really don't need value on the screen. But when it comes to navigation, there is definitely one, the third one, it's the time. In the way of side plan, it's important if you're cross country, you go up, relax in time. In the way when the day starts working. When you're on competition, it's also good to start it as soon as it starts working. You go up, and you have time to monitor the weather a bit, and also to relax, to be on good position on the start gate. Of course, at that point it's worth to mention to be on the right side of the start cylinder, but definitely you need to have a plan what you will do after first climb, first successful position. And here are two things. Of course, one information you need is time. Definitely overall time, at any time, always you need it. And for the start cylinder, I would mention here time to go. Normally on the competition this is really relevant information, and on cross country it's depending on the weather, but still time is the fourth value you basically need. Then, so you don't get lost, you need to know somehow the optimal route, and see all the possible ways you can go, so alternative solution according to the weather you have. Here you can help a bit again if you have a weather integrated on the screen. It helps you to make easier decision how to deal with it, and definitely most of the information is displayed on the map or on go-to line, but still the to now box will help you to navigate the minor corrections to the direction, or particular on the competition to the cylinder. That was the 50 information now. Then of course, as I said before, weather will help you a bit, but important, will I reach the requested point? This could be either the saddle, how to come over it, the goal, or even some particular point on the route. And I would say the most relevant info is glide ratio you have comparing to the glide ratio you need. Arrival altitudes are fine, of course, but they include too many variables to have them as completely irrelevant. So they are nice to have on the screen, but to keep it simple they could be much overload. Normally all modern instruments anyway will warn you when you are good with arrival altitude to come to the goal. So even you don't need this particular information as an outbox here. And yeah, so this would be about it. And never trust your instrument. When I said before which glide ratio is realistic, I remember Luc Armand 3 years ago when we started with I think OD4 development, I asked him about ENSO 2 polar. And he was just laughing and sent me some numbers. I put them in mine OD and he wrote me like, it's much worse or what pilots think they have, but it's still better than all our previous gliders. And that's basically true. So the polar curve you have in, for example, in the OD by default it's around 10. That's somehow approximate number for Zeno, ENSO 2, ENSO 3. It's all more or less somewhere there. And I often get support questions, and then I ask for the pictures from polar settings and so on, and then you see that pilots really overrate their glider performance. And at this point, I would say, okay, you can trust the instrument, but first of all, be realistic how to set up your polar curve in the instrument. So let's say the modern CCC gliders roughly have around 10. The base glider ratio, I would say normal this around 9, and then I would scale 0.5 point down for each class of the glider. So basically the B is around 8, let's say, or 7.5. And the most important, don't trust always the instrument. Somehow in real flight you need to get a feeling where you will come with the particular altitude. Because here is worth to mention McCready theory. Did you hear for it? Most of it, yeah. So McCready theory in paragliding sounds nice, but paragliders are too slow normally and it fails because we are too sensitive for any balloons, for any valley winds, for any small changes in the weather. And at the end, the common sense of it, you need to get somehow a feeling where you will come, so at least you know what to expect, because if there is no landing, you can't say then after landing on the tree, or I mean nothing bad, but after the accident the instrument was showing you that you will come somewhere, because it's just helping you to vibrate. So and here are two examples of how to keep it simple, and this is my cross-country screen, and this is like default cross-country screen of the CEO Navigator. Yeah, recently a lot has changed with the new technologies. In the last 2 years, if you would monitoring Navigator marketing from 7 years ago, when we started with the OD3, we said that the phone screens are not good enough to be visible on the sun. That changed in the last 2 years. That's not true anymore, and the phone could be partly good solution for the in-flight navigation. And here comes to the point all the free source applications we know, like XTrack, and recently we also developed CEO Navigator. More about it later. And the other one is Funit or Flarum, you know that? I will also explain about it, how it works. About Navigator, there was, when we started designing it, there was no particular app which with good interconnection could bring you into the cockpit quite some useful information to help you make better decisions in flight. And definitely rain radar we got for the Navigator is a breakthrough in terms of to know where is the rain or where is two big cover developments. It's supported with combination of satellite pictures. So this is our Sorica route, let's say. It's quite zoom out here, but enough to see. So you can really see how the weather works. Where is a lot of clouds, where you get some rain. At least to help you to decide in Gemona to proceed farther into the Italy or not. I mean, this is example here, the local one. Definitely wind is one thing which comes to the point on the long cross-country flights. In SkySight or Top Meteor, it is displayed in 300-meter layers. So we take your position and the wind forecast for the current altitude. As for my experiences flying with it in Brazil last year with Primož and Aaron, it works really good. I mean, and when you add to these convergence lines, these are basically the thermal lines. In Alps, these convergence lines comes as partly as waves of thermals when you have either strong south or either strong north wind. But on the flats like Brazil, or maybe our Pannonia flatland, you can really use them. And when you plan a big ones, like 400, 500, 600 kilometers flights, you can plan the task on the wind forecast direction and strength, and comparing to the convergence lines really good. And with Aaron and Primož we were playing with it a lot, and you can really squeeze out most of the day and play with it. We had bad luck a bit with the weather, it was a bit too stable, but still, when we were comparing what we had in flight, what we could take as our reference, what could be the next day, it was working at the end. And yeah, here comes the Fanit. Do you know Fanit and Flarum? As I asked before. So most of it is merged now under one server. It's called OGN, Open Glider Network, which connects all Flarum and Fanit targets over collected from the ground stations which are connected to the internet, and also all the trackers over internet on one server. And all the Flarum Fanit technology was basically made for as an anti-collision system. But since in paragliding we don't use, or we don't give on safety as much, we start using it to improve our performance. And then when you come here to start using such systems for the performance in flight, you can get live weather into the cockpit over the weather stations. This one are now the Swiss one from Bernie Hertz. Maybe he's even here. Next week, maybe, yeah. Where you get all the wind, and it's a wind direction and strand information. And here is how you see your Fanit or Flarum targets on the screen. On the OD5 it works with the names. On the CO navigator it's still only as an icon. But there we are also able to split between hang glider icon, paraglider, and sailplane. Our wish is to have the names of the pilots there soon. And what this happens in flight, you simply fly. When you go on cross country, you can at least see how high the pilots are, how strong thermals they have. Some pilots also may say that in competition this could be also partly a doping, but as long everybody have that, I wouldn't say, because then it's the same for everybody. But still, these are the two things to use. First of all, for most of the rescue actions, it will be easier to find you. But as a second thing, it helps. When you are somewhere in the areas you don't know if somebody is flying there, for sure it will help you. At least how high they went somewhere, or where did they flew. Because you can also monitor their tracks for the last 30 minutes or even more. So it's kind of cheating, but still, it's helping a lot. And then, normally when you do everything right, you drink beer in the goal. This is quite good Slovenian standard, I would say, goal beer. But when you don't do it right, you bomb out. And then normally, first thing comes is a bit of anger. Then, of course, you look around. If a retrieve bus is coming for you, all is okay. if you're somewhere in the middle of Hungary, you don't know their language, you hope that somebody of your friends will come to pick you up. Or if you're in the middle of Julian Alps, like I was last year, then you hope that you will come out without a helicopter. And I bombed out here. Kobala is somewhere here. And this is somewhere on the 1,800 to 2,000. What happened? With Primož and Bojan Gavršek, we were attempting first Slovenian 200 triangle, and on the north side of Kranjska Gora it was looking like this. And then when we came over Vršič Pass, Kobala is now here. This was in the somewhere around 20th of April. It was looking pretty good. Here is Bovet. And we said, okay, we climb once more. Here we are over the plateau. But this plateau, as it is looking small, it's not so small. It's quite long. And what is the worst thing? This ridge, which is the market one we are used to fly from Soreca, here is still a ridge, but it's coming kind of white ridge where you can't keep so much relative altitude. And of course, when you want to compete also on cross country against your teammates, or to improve a bit, you push too much. And what happened to them? They came over like that. And normally this is a regular spring in Slovenia. South from Soča Valley you have almost summer. On the north side it's still winter. And when we flew over, we were here together. The red one is mine. I first pushed here. I went in front of them. I didn't climb that. Actually, it was zero thermal, nothing. I thought that I could push over. I even didn't know that maybe I could come around. But there was not relative altitude. And then the second mistake was to jump over on the Bohin Lake. And of course, we don't go back, we always go farther. And I was pushing to the right in. So at the end, I didn't have another options to actually just to land on the top of the plateau behind the ridge we fly here. It was a quite hard lesson for me, first of all because of the idea of triangle was mine, and the second one because it was so little. And then the week after, I went to attempt it on my own, and here was the same sketchy point. And it was like, again, 50 meters, make it or not make it. What I want to say is like, this is a good example how you can compare the flights to know where you missed. And then really when you go to fly next time, you can take that experience to help you to benefit. And this was basically, if you compare the first one was not the same. So, if you would compare their one, they flew just till Sveta Gora and back. This was a bit extended on the beginning and a bit improved copy of original idea. In the end I was successful, but I learned for a huge mistake which cost me 4 hours of walking in the deep snow and quite some suffering. Yeah, that would be briefly all from my side. I think I'm already too long. Any questions about anything here? Yeah.
So the question is about your application, Military Navigator.
See your navigator, yeah.
Navigator. Yeah. So the question is, so one of the reasons why pilots typically use more than one instrument on their cockpit is because we can't arrange all numbers that we need on one screen. We just need second screen. And now you released the application for the phone but typically phones have not many phones have really good GPS, and almost no phones have good barometer to measure altitude and so on. And the question is if it is also from Navitaire, are you planning, are you going to connect this CEO application with Navitaire OD and get GPS and barometer data from there to over Bluetooth or something like that, so we can use the phone as the second screen for all?
I wouldn't agree with you that the GPSs on the phone are not good enough.
It's
The last generation of the smartphones is more than good enough. Relating Vario settings, Vario sound, yeah, there is no pressure sensor in the phone which would be good enough to have it as a Vario, and for that you still need to have a Vario. But here the only thing you are basically missing is a Vario sound. Everything else you can get out from the app. And why to use more instruments? First of all, on the competitions, it's always nice to have a backup. At least if you forget to charge one, you will not forget to charge the other. Normally you will not. And still, I'm using two, and most of pilots do, to have one zooming into the target, to the waypoint you are approaching, and then one to see complete picture. If you still have phone, the third thing on the side, you can use it as a thermal assistant, independently for the first two maps. So first one, all overview of the task, the second one zooming to the particular target, waypoint you are navigating to, and the third one for thermal link only. So you have at all times overview through all the segments of flight.
In fact, not all phones have good enough GPS. So you see.
I said last generation.
Yeah. So yes, well,
Let's say
top phones for sure have, but more cheap phones don't. So you see your position, but the direction is not good here. So you can go to the north, but
we
you also
didn't
you go to the
notice.
west.
We didn't notice this during the testing, I would say. I think here also comes the difference between the free source softwares and the well done softwares, because it's also the way how you process the data you get from the phone also makes a huge difference.
You can consider it a feature request for your.
Sure. Now, definitely, if the question was connection to external devices, is definitely on our
Not
backup list.
external, but even to audio, because I also
Yeah,
have
sure.
audio and my phone, my computer, and if I can get GPS and borrow data from audio, not from my internal
Yeah.
phone detector, with
Okay.
much better.
Any more? No more? Gasper, you have something to say? Yeah, you have any? Yeah.
We have seen this new cloud-based CU.
Yes.
What's the price? Is it a subscription-based one?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. With CEO Navigator release 1 month ago, we changed our licensing system to 1 year subscription, and the regular price is 59 per year. This is including European 20% tax. For the OD or our instrument owners, we provide 50% discount for first purchase. One thing to point out here, weather subscriptions like SkySight or Topometer are separate ones. So it's not part of the package, because guys do quite a lot of, or they are putting quite a lot of effort to develop this stuff, so we cannot squeeze it into that price.
We are at the Serial Cup.
Yes?
And which competition screen would you recommend for the pilots?
Something similar what I was showing you before. Let's say this is my cross-country screen, but still the only information here which could be missing is current glide ratio comparing to required glide ratio, and no, current glide ratio comparing to required glide ratio for the target. This is 2 now box, so where to go? This is what I will already see. And then when I will fly, when the task will be visible here, I will see on the map where to go. So basically, I will change term and glide ratio with the required glide ratio, and that's more or less what I need for the comp.
Could you maybe recommend some videos on YouTube or anywhere with more detailed presentation of such features as weather and other features on YouTube? Because I can't find some good presentations on YouTube about features of audio.
We didn't go to the video presentations, but you can get some quite GIF files in our help portal, help.navigator.com, through the help articles, but there are videos integrated. This is what I want to say. So help.navigator.com, there is 99% of all know-how you need to know.
Otherwise, send him a mail.
Yeah, otherwise all requests support@navigator.com. Any more? Yeah.
Have you any plans for the next maybe generation of Audi to switch the platform from Windows CE to Android maybe, or like to change that?
It's definitely something we need to change, not something we would like to change. We need to change. At the current point, it's nothing to say. We were never keen to give promises when and how, but as said, we need to change that, and we will change that. But it's still important to say it's quite difficult to move in the terms in technology, because Audi is stable, it's working, it's 100% reliable, it never fails, as it is. Android in some way it's not, and normally pilots, as a pilots, we are not happy to lose the flight or to have problems in the air, and when we go over that barrier, I'm pretty much sure we will have it. Any more?
The antenna of the UD5.
Yes.
I think Skytrax has the antenna inside it. A lot of people are breaking the antennas because it's sticking out.
No, Skytrax doesn't have it inside because we use the same Funit Plus model. We developed it together, we use it together. So Skytrax and Navigator instruments in this way are 100% compatible. And it's not possible to make completely integrated antenna into the housing. But I would say, like, with the regular use, to break it, it is the same chance you will break the screen as antenna.
No, actually.
Within the normal use.
Actually, the case when you do towing and you have this release thing in front of you, it actually catches the antenna and it gets
Yeah, but there is one 90-degree connector you can attach with it, and you will not have any more problems. We were winching in Brazil, 10 guys, all with OD5s last year, 0 issues. In quite hardcore conditions.
and so on, but it happens.
Yeah, but as I said, within regular use, it's the same chance you will break screen as for the antenna. It's made for that, so. But still, there is aspect of reasonable force used to the hardware. Cool. Yeah. For the end, there is one Slovenian phrase. I will not say in Slovenian, but this is how it would sound translated into the English. This was just the theory. To become a better pilot, you need to fly, and to repeat the loop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.